Good intentions, good intentions, good intentions. The power of word. The power of word. And the power of word today is still a continuation of the word law. 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 Let's get into it. We're gonna pick up where we left off, and we were talking in video 3 about Exodus, right? And exiting the dust. Check out the video. It has the continent in it. So now we're gonna move on to the next chapter in the Bible, because we went through Genesis, we went through Exodus, and then now we're in Leviticus. What is Leviticus? Leviticus is the law of self, not of the self of lower self, but the law of self of the higher self. Meaning, once you exited dust, the body, right, the dust of the body, you are moving into the spiritual. And once you are moving into the spiritual, you have to operate as such. So everything is in Leviticus is the holies of holies, right? And in this book, a lot of people don't like to read, and they don't understand it, is because they don't understand the concept and the precept of God, right? No one, even pastors and preachers, would actually want to deal with Leviticus, because he says, oh, well, you got to understand the sacrifice, and you got to understand the holies of holies, and no one was allowed to go into the tent or into the temple of the Creator because they had to be clean, right? And then a lot of them had leprosy, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to make this real simple, and I'm going to take the difficultiness out of Leviticus, right? Once you die from the dust, from the flesh, you die from everything that you desire, right? You desire from lust, the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh. You die from alcohol, you die from drugs, you die from covetousness, right? You know the 10 Commandments. You die from all of those things. Enviness, right? Envyingness, right? To want something that is not yours. Once you die from all of those things, now you've been drained. Everything that you had has been taken away from you, so now you have to be refilled. And now you are able to enter into the presence of the Creator of the all, right? The all that is in all and through all, right? Now it is ready to fill you up. Remember, your Savior said that He is the living water, right? If the living water is coming to fill you up because you're dry, you're thirsty. I'm going to read a couple of scriptures to you, and I'm going to break them down. Your Savior, your salvation says, think not that I am come to destroy the law. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Matthew 5:17 is the word of your salvation, right? The word of your salvation, saying that the law is there for a reason and a purpose. And Leviticus is the law, not of the lower self, but the higher self. And the reason that it's hard for any to understand or to want to deal with, or they skip over it, is because they're not as holy and they're not as sacred, and they're not ready to be the higher self, and they're still entertaining the things of the world. What you need to understand is that when you enter into Leviticus, right, and when they're speaking of 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. That right there is taking you all the way back to Leviticus, because after you exited the dust, God is the creator of the all, right? Not God, but the creator of everything. It's not called God, because God can be anything, anybody. God can even be an entity. So we don't want to use the word God too loosely, because a lot of individuals will say God said, but who is God, right? So you want to actually have a perspective on who you worshiping and who you serving. If you worshiping your salvation, you're not supposed to worship your salvation, but you're supposed to serve your salvation, right? You're supposed to learn from your salvation. Jesus is your salvation. Let's break down 1 Peter 2:9. And it says that you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. I'm going to break down 4 words up in here, and then we're going to get up out of there. Because first thing you need to know is that I'm going to go backwards. A peculiar people. What is peculiar? Peculiar means that you are valued and treasured. So you are a value and a treasure to your Creator. When you were created, you were made more valuable than a diamond, more valuable than $1 million mansion, more valuable than anything that you can think of. You're more precious. You are Peculiar, valuable treasure. That was peculiar. And we're going to go into a holy nation. What is a holy nation? A holy nation is a priesthood. What is the priesthood? The priesthood is holiness. Holiness is Kadash. And Kadash is righteousness, right? And righteousness is Sekinu. Sekinu. Sekinu is T-S-I-D-Q-E-N-U. Sekinu. And what Sekinu is? Sekinu is sacredness. So when it comes to being sacred, the only thing that is in the Bible is sacred is you. But only when you're activated and you're operating at a level that is so high, the frequency, right? And it's so high that the only thing that can come out of it is the sound and the essence of a God. All right? Not the God, which we don't want to use. The creator of all is the creator of all. But then the frequency is the frequency of God, of something that is not human, right? Something that is immortal. And that's where we're moving, and that's where we're trying to go, right? You're trying to get to heaven, right? Well, you have to create within before you can go without. Because if you're not able to go into a place that is right before you, which is the holies of holies, and you can't operate in that form, what good are you into another place of heaven when you can't even operate where you are right now and where you at, right? So we talked about the royal priest. We talked about the holy nation. We talked about the peculiar people. We talked about the priesthood, right? The priesthood, we say it again, once again, the priesthood is holiness. Holiness is Kadash. Kadash is righteousness. Righteousness is Sekinu, and Sekinu is sacredness. You are the sacredness. You are peculiar. Peculiar is value and treasured. And the royal priesthood, we spoke of that. That's the holy nation, right? But then we want to speak on the last one, and the last one is royal. Royal is Genesis 1:26. And God said, let us make man after our image and our likeness, and let's give them dominion over everything above them, over everything below them, and over everything between. God said, now go and dominate, go and rule over, have dominion over everything, and be royal with it. You are a king and a queen, so you're supposed to dominate, and you're supposed to lead, right, with all of this authority. So to sum it up, when you take and you look at the priesthood, you are a royal priesthood in the holy nations. There's multiple hats you're supposed to have on. So if you imagine what a priest look like, and you imagine what the king look like, you want to combine the two of those together. Now, civilization will tell you that that is an oxymoron, and you can't have both of those together. But God said, the Creator said, the book says, out of all things, you have to be able to have both. You are supposed to be operating in such a state, right? You're supposed to be operating in such a state, because I don't know the word for it, because it's so high, is that you can't operate in the old ways and the old things that you have done. You have to be on such a plateau, right? That you can't even operate no other way but higher, right? Sekinu, righteousness and truth. That's the only way you're going to get it. So when you think about Leviticus, go to 1 Peter 2:9. When you think about Leviticus, go to Matthew 5:17 and read with the words of your salvation. And you will understand about the law, right? And when it comes down to it, it seems like I haven't even spoken any words about the law. But when you think of the law is those words that we've spoken of. Everything that is in 1 Peter 2:9 is your law. It's telling you who you are. And we didn't only just speak of the words that were in 1 Peter 2:9, but we actually broke them down to get some substance, right? To get some meat, right? Because just the words alone is the milk. But He that look into the perfect law of liberty, right? Not being a forgetful hearer, but a doer, right? You have to be a doer of the work. So once the work is in front of you, you have to digest it. You have to go into it. You have to open it up. You can't just eat it. You got to break it open because there's hidden jewels inside of it. This is law chapter. This is the fourth part of this series, and there's going to be probably a couple of more series. So stay up. We can't continue to fall.